everyone, and welcome to some more home yoga with me, Allison. I'm here today to share with you floor practice. So my previous post was about chair yoga practice. So today we offering you a Hatha practice with a restorative pose at the end. So for today, we are going to be using a couple of props, but it really is up to you. So if you've been practicing yoga for a while and you know your body really well, and then maybe you know that you can sit comfortably on the floor without propping your hips up, then you can go ahead and just sit flat on the floor here. I like to elevate the hips a little bit. It's just a little more comfortable. Let the knees sink down a little bit lower than the hips and allows kind of the spine to come into kind of a straighter alignment. But we won't be here for too long, so of course we'll get moving and that'll sort itself out. And just so you know, if you're new to my yoga style of practice, I go slowly. I'm used to teaching for those who are in pain or have injuries. So I tend to do a little more explaining and slowing things down. If you are interested in practicing something a little faster pace, maybe that's something your body is feeling it needs right now, then please let me know and get in contact with me. There's a lot of wonderful yoga instructors in kind of East Coast area that I am familiar with that are offering free classes online. So thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy this practice. So to get started, we are going to be sitting on our bolsters. We'll review those props that I was referring to. I have bolsters, so that's what I'm sitting on, but you can see I'm wrapped around a couch here. A couch cushion could act as something else that could prop you up if that's of interest. Or as you mentioned in the chair yoga practice, you can use a pillow as well. And then I do like practicing with the yoga belt. So once again, if you want to use just a regular belt, or if you have the belt off your house robe, you could use that as well. So having those nearby, and I'll be mentioning them as to when to use them. All right, so to get started, it's always best to check in. So when you go to a yoga class, we're spending that first few minutes of the class centering ourselves. Especially these days, it's really important to do that with so much information that we might be getting overwhelmed with, and also just a change in pace of our lifestyle and staying home more. Maybe you're not checking in with your body as often as usual. So that's important to start with. See how your body and mind are doing before you even get started with your practice, so that you can take care and just really honor where your body and mind are at today. So to begin, you're going to start to rock your body left and right and just start to sense into your sitting bones, those bones that connect you to the surface below. I know for me, when I'm sitting on the couch, I tend to lean on one way or another, which is fine because I'm never there for too long. But we do have our habits, our habitual movement patterns or postures that we get into. So it's nice just to kind of recalibrate, so to speak, kind of get a sense of where center is. And once you find that feeling of center, imagine you have this opposing force. You're grounded through your sitting bones, but yet you're lifted through the spine. So there's this lifting up through the rib cage. The shoulder blades draw back and down, creating a nice space between shoulder and ears. The arms can rest at your sides, or they can rest on the bolster beside you. And from here, I like to just even imagine that there's a string pulling up through the crown of the head, still containing that nice long length through the spine. The eyes can close or the gaze can soften downward. This is the moment where we invite stillness and silence into the mind and body. Noticing as a whole how your body is feeling today. Notice what is standing out to you. If you are aware of tension that you're holding in the body, whether that be through the jaw, the shoulders, the legs, seeing if you can encourage the body to soften a little more. So maybe that's drawing the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. Maybe it's creating space between the teeth, softening the facial muscles. Perhaps it's drawing the shoulder blades back and down, encouraging a space through the chest and collarbones. And noticing what this does to your breath. When we create this lifting and opening, does it feel easier to take a deep breath in and out? Allowing your focus next to go to your arms, allowing your arms to be heavy, softening through the fingertips. And then noticing the legs. How are the legs doing? Can we allow the legs to relax more from side to side? And maybe sitting in this posture isn't comfortable for you. You could extend the legs long at any moment. Maybe your feet are getting numb and tingly. Really listen to your body here. You can release the legs. Take some windshield wipers if you need to. Knock your legs left and right. But then coming back to the body, allowing it to center. Taking a moment to observe the mind, any thoughts or emotions that might be present here today. Being compassionate towards yourself. Of course, the mind might be busy during these times. And then encouraging your mind to come back to this present moment. Really connecting. Today we'll be focusing with the breath as an anchor to the present moment. So if you notice the mind is pulling you in other directions away from this present moment experience, encouraging your attention to come back to the breath. So first, bring attention to the breath without changing it. Breathing in and out and noticing the quality of what that feels like today. For today's practice, we'll begin by placing an intention. So in yoga classes, we'll often set an intention to follow us through the class and to really be clear on what it is we feel we may need in this moment. That's going to be different for everyone. Just taking this moment, just based on how you notice your body and mind are doing today, what you feel you need in this moment. And you might even recite that in the form of a mantra, saying, may I be. So for example, may I be safe. May I be centered. Maybe it's something more physically. May I feel more relaxed in my body. May I feel hope in my mind. Whatever that is for you, allowing this mantra or this intention to be set and integrating into your practice today. For pranayama, the breathing practice for today, we're going to be doing a 3-part breath. You can allow the eyes to stay closed, or if you need to open them for a moment, you can. So for that practice, we're going to have some hands-on feedback. So this is some tactile feedback for our bodies to really sense into the movement. So our hands are feeling expansion where we're breathing into. So the 3-part breath, you could almost imagine it like a snowman. Your bigger breath is going to come into the belly. As you breathe in, the belly expands outward. That middle or medium amount of breath is going to come in through the rib cage and chest. And that smaller bit of breath in at that very end, on top of the inhalation, is going to come through the upper chest into the throat. And then as you exhale, you empty from upper, middle, and then lower. If you're new to pranayama or this particular 3-part breath, it can sometimes make people feel lightheaded. They're not used to breathing and bringing in that much oxygen into the body, in which case just stick with the 2-part breath and always go back to your regular breathing at any time it doesn't feel right for you. So coming back to this position, one hand on belly, one hand on heart. As you inhale through the nose, if that's accessible to you, send that breath to the belly as it expands outward, followed by the chest, and then the throat and upper airways, that final bit of breath in. exhale, releasing the air from upper, mid, and lower belly settles back in. Continue this at your own pace, allowing your breath to guide you. Inhale to fill belly, chest, and throat. Exhaling, throat, chest, and belly. In yoga, it is thought that pranayama, this breathing practice, connects the mind and body together. The diaphragm is one of the few muscles in the body that are both consciously and subconsciously contracting throughout our day. So by actively encouraging this muscle to work, we're tapping into the body and influencing the mind to stay centered. One more breath like this, inhaling to fill. Exhaling to soften. And then you can allow the arms to come back to your sides. Eyes can open if they're closed. At this point, maybe the legs are getting a little bit tired of being stuck in this position you might not be used to, right? So let's release the legs for a moment. And when I'm referring to windshield wipers, this is gentle rocking left and right of the legs. It's just a really great way to loosen the hips up, get some circulation going, especially if we've been in a posture for any length of time. And sometimes it can compromise the blood flow to the lower parts of the legs. And that's really common when people are first practicing yoga. They'll say that as one of the experiences they have. So in this case, you do want to honor your body. It's not a matter of waiting till your feet are both numb before you choose to come out. Certainly listen to your body. If the sensation doesn't pass, release the posture and come into something like this natural rhythmical movement to release. So moving along, our next posture is called staff pose. It's a great way to lengthen the muscles in the back of the legs and work on some postural muscles as well. So you can choose to stay propped up on your support for this one. I'm going to switch to the side so you can get a better visual. I'm going to choose to do my practice from the floor here. So sitting with your sitting bones right underneath you, shoulders draw back and down. We're still getting this opposition of scrounging through the sitting bones, yet lifted up through the spine, creating space through the vertebrae. And from here, we're creating this counter pressure where hands into the mat. And if that's not feeling accessible for you, you can use some pillows, some books, okay, so lots of options here. But this gentle press, which creates this more lengthening through the spine, and then we're getting this length through the back of the legs. So in our practice, I'm always mentioning to my clients and participants that we do want to make sure this is kind of the priority versus, okay, I'm lengthening my legs, but my spine is rounded. And that's pretty common because hamstrings tend to be shortened or tight in a lot of people. So they'll get in their stack pose and this is kind of the shape that'll form. So I prefer to keep this tall and long. And then if the knees need to bend a little bit, we could roll a blanket underneath to support that, or just simply keep them bent and imagine them coming close to the floor as we create more length. So coming into this posture, we're inhaling to think tall through the spine. Exhale, imagine the knees coming closer to the floor if the knees are bent. If you've been practicing this pose for a while, you might even consider drawing the toes towards you, lengthening the calf further. And if it's accessible, you might even consider lifting the heels up, which just energizes and creates strength through the front of the legs. Finding your breath here with the hold. One more breath in and out. Wonderful. From here, we're going to draw the left knee in. Give it a big hug. Thank your body for all the things it can do for you and all the ways that it is able to function throughout the day. So keeping that foot on the inside, or you might choose to place that foot on the outside of the knee. Finding your center point here, we're going to inhale, reach the arms up overhead or as far as feels comfortable for you. And then exhaling as you turn to your left side. As you turn to your left, you have choice to create a little prop behind you. You might hug the left knee in, or you might take cactus arms where you take your elbow on the outside of the knee and create this nice big opening through the hand. Spinal twist. Noticing, what does this feel like for you? Might not be a habitual movement pattern that you take throughout your day, so go easy on yourself here. Notice the sensations that your body's producing. If it's accessible, looking over the shoulder or simply looking down at your hip. Notice how the breath might have changed as we change the shape in the body. Spinal twist encourages the breath to be promoted in one side of the rib cage over the other. So as we're twisting left, you might feel your breath more on the left rib cage, expanding as you inhale and softening as you exhale. Wonderful. Slowly coming back as you inhale. We're going to come into a variation of rock the baby pose. So for this, you take your left ankle over your right knee. And if that is just feeling like too much on your hip, you can choose to elevate yourself up on a bolster or cushion. Or the other option is to simply place your foot back in front of you and rock it back and forth in that fashion. If you are choosing to have the ankle over the knee, we use the leg almost like a fulcrum and we're rocking the body left and right. This creates a self-massage through the back of the hip, which I thoroughly enjoy as it's like you're getting into those deeper parts of the hips. The hips have some of the biggest muscles in the body, really kind of thick and strong, and they can sometimes be tight as well. And then we have our sciatic nerve that runs through the space. We're getting a gentle massage, creating a little more blood flow to this area of the body. Wonderful. Releasing your left leg, and for a moment, just notice how that left leg might feel different and sometimes even look different than your right side. So for example, when I'm done doing that, my left leg actually appears longer than my right side because I just released it. So just noticing that, it's kind of neat to observe those changes as you practice. Next, draw the right knee towards you, give it a hug. Noticing what this side feels like today. It's very common to have differences from left to right, and this side might look and feel different. So your choice to have a foot on this side or the outside of the left knee. As you find your sitting bones, you'll inhale, reach your arms up overhead, and exhale yourself to the right. Your right hand's behind you, your left arm can either hug into that leg, creating this nice stretch through the IT band, this tight structure that's on the outside of the leg, but also the option to take your cactus arm. When you're in a spinal twist, if you feel like you're accessing more available range the longer you're in the posture, then it's best to access that range when you're exhaling. So when you're exhaling, your body tends to relax muscles more and you can find more ease. And the rib cage is settled and exhaling, so you tend to have a little more available room to rotate through the spine. One more breath in and out, really sensing into that right rib cage as you breathe in and out. And then with your next inhalation, you'll slowly come back to center. Notice how that's feeling. We're waking things up in the spine. As we come into our variation of rock the baby pose, your option is to have the right ankle over the left knee, or once again, to simply place the foot in front of you. If you've been practicing this posture for a while and you know it's full form, then go right ahead and do it. From here, we're using the leg as a fulcrum. So we're pushing into it to going one way and then back the other. And depending on where your body's holding tension will really kind of dictate where you're going to experience this posture the most. But for the main portion of this posture, we're getting a lot of pressure as we shift our weight over onto the hip. For some people, they find that the strain might be through the knee if they've had knee injuries. So you might just slacken up on the knee and just put the foot down on the shin bone. And then once again, your other option I'll just demonstrate here is just to simply do like a windshield wiper type motion, left and right, without crossing the leg. So whichever choice you're taking here, just staying present, just still breathing with movement. Wonderful. As you come back to center, release the right leg, and once again notice how it might look or feel different than the left. Right now, both my legs look pretty equal and feel very released, so this is good. So we're going to come into the next posture, which is butterfly pose. So I'll turn and face you for this one. So butterfly pose has a couple other names that you might hear go by, bound ankle pose, cobbler's pose. There's different names that might be used. Butterfly is pretty common because the shape obviously looks like a butterfly. But once again, just referring back to our staff pose we just did, a lot of people will come into their butterfly and they'll get their heels nice and close to their pelvis, but then they're left with a rounded spine because some of the structures through their hips and pelvis and back are tight. So if you're noticing that, then you might take your feet out a little bit further to maintain this length through the spine. And for the purpose of this posture today, we are going to be focusing on lengthening the spine and that opposition of grounding yet lifted. So finding where that kind of sweet spot is for you, where your feet are close to you, but yet you're still able to keep the length through the spine. Shoulder blades draw back and down, create the space through the collarbones and space between shoulders and ears. I like to close my eyes or just soften the gaze down for this one, allowing the hips to relax outward. Your breath in encourages lengthening in the spine, and your breath out encourages the knees to come closer to the floor. If in this posture you're noticing this is just way too much force on my hips, I'm not used to doing that type of range of motion, then this is a great time to use your cushions on either side. So in this case, I'm going to use pillows, and you really want to encourage it to be sitting underneath your hip to stack up. If you have yoga blocks at home, the other option is to have a block on either side. And if you're finding that this just isn't even enough to make it comfortable for you, then you might just do one leg at a time, and you could bring that one over to the other side. So you're doing like a single-sided butterfly posture where I'm using both pillows to support. And then eventually over time, you might try and do bilateral both sides. So there's many options in getting into these postures, and really it's about allowing your body to be guiding the way, guiding the posture, as opposed to having the posture kind of pushing you into a shape that doesn't feel comfortable. So always honoring your body. Let's come back to the breath. Wonderful. You can choose to stay here working on this beautiful posture of yours, or you can choose to exhale and start to lean yourself forward. Your hands walk forward, which creates this opening and lengthening in the spine. It also deepens the stretch through the inner thighs and hips. If it's accessible, you might even choose to tuck the chin and allow the head and neck to be heavy. If you're choosing this form of the posture, you might notice as we close off the front body that we're allowing more space and movement of the breath in the back body. Wonderful. And then inhaling yourself all the way back up thinking tall in the spine as you resume this tall posture. You'll encourage the knees to come back together again. Your feet are about hip width apart. You can remove those cushions out of the way and rock the legs left and right. So here's those windshield wipers again, allowing yourself to release through the hips. And I like to exaggerate the windshield wipers, so I'm really going off to the side, putting more pressure on the outside of my hips, very similar to when we did the rock the baby pose. All right, we're moving along here. We're gonna make our way to tabletop. So that's on your hands and knees. If you have any sensitivity to your wrists or your knees, you might use an extra blanket underneath, or you might also choose to fold your mat in two. So I'll show you that. So for example, if I'm using my blanket, that'll help cushion my knees. If you find that it's more on your wrists, you could use your blanket, or you might choose to fold your mat depending how much cushion you want. And I like to have the fingertips fall over where it's folded so the wrists are slightly propped upward. So coming into your tabletop posture, your knees are hip width apart, your hips are stacked over your knees, your hands are stacked under your shoulders. And just like in our seated postures, we're thinking long through the spine, the crown of the head reaches forward, sitting bones reach back, creating that lengthening and opening through the collarbones and the space between the shoulders and ears. Take a moment to notice what it feels like to be in this new posture. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. On your next inhalation, you can allow the tailbone to rise up. The belly is going to sink downward, the chest opens up, and looking forward. This is cow pose. As you exhale, your chin will tuck, your head comes heavy towards the mat as you push the floor away from you. The tail tucks under for cat pose. Beautiful stretch through the mid-back. As you flip into your cow pose, you'll inhale and open. If looking up all the way is uncomfortable for the neck, you might keep the gaze down. And then once again, you're going to exhale yourself into cat. Continue at your own pace, moving through your spine away that feels comfortable for you. Most people find that their spine feels stiff in certain areas of these postures, in which case you might not go to its full range. You might stop halfway and then reverse into the opposite formation. So going back and forth between rounding and arching helps to lubricate the joints, helps to circulate through the nerves that exit the spine, and just a great way also to stabilize through the shoulders and hips. Moving back into child's pose, your knees can widen to be the width of the mat, toes can touch, sink your hips back and down. And I like to prioritize the forehead being resting on the floor. And if it's not accessible to reach it, that's when you might want to bring in a cushion or a blanket to rest your forehead on. Allowing yourself to sink into child's pose. Commonly what I see in my practice with clients is that their hips don't have the available range to sink all the way back and down, in which case puppy dog pose is a great option. You might narrow your hips a little bit more, your hands come forward, your hips stay up, and you drop your chest down through your arms. So this is another great option. You might rest your forehead down as well, where you're kind of crossing the two poses together of both puppy dog pose and child's pose, so that we're still able to elongate the spine, but also get a little bit of stretching through the hips. And over time, you might start working your way back a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. Finding your breath, that anchor point to the present moment. Maybe feeling the breath in the back body a little bit more as we close off the front body. On your next inhalation, start to pull yourself upright. Walk the hands forward. Knees can come back to be about hip width apart. And you're slowly lowering yourself down onto your belly. So chaturanga, it's modification here. The knees stay down, slowly lower down. As your hands kind of create this space underneath your shoulders, we're still thinking long through the neck. And the tops of your feet are pressing into your mat. So sometimes in this posture of cobra we're about to come into, the feet want to lift up to help create strength through the body that we're moving in the back. So we're encouraging the feet to stay down, pelvis stays grounded, shoulder blades draw back and down as you inhale, start to lift up. And then exhale, lower. So depending on your spine, you might find, oh, I can only lift up a couple inches. Well, that's great, because if you're not used to going in this direction, that might be all you need today. But over time, you might encourage the spine to go a little bit further, and then always exhaling to release and relax in between. So you're inhaling to open and exhale to close. This we consider a baby cobra. I'm going up through the body, back bending here, pressing through the arms, but my elbows are staying relatively bent. If you choose to do a full cobra, you might walk your hands out a little bit more and start to straighten through the elbows. Notice I'm keeping the pelvis down here. As you exhale, slowly start to lower back down. With any back bends, it's very natural to feel a pressure or tension through the back of the body, and I say it's equivalent to bending the finger backwards. Not something we do often, sort of habitual pattern, so it might feel a little uncomfortable, but as long as it's not sharp shooting pain, then you're good to go. And especially if you come out of the posture and that sensation's pretty much gone, then no harm done here. As you inhale, you're going to do one more at your pace in your version, and exhale to lower. And then pressing yourself back up again, we're going to come back to that tabletop posture and making our way next to a high kneeling position. So if you find your knees are sensitive, just like as you did when we were in tabletop, you might support your knees. So whether you want to use a blanket or folding the mat in two. In a high kneeling position, we're having our knees underneath our hips, shoulder blades back and down, arms out forward. So I'm almost doing this modification of mountain pose that's generally done standing, but we're doing this high kneeling version. So we're stacking ourselves up here in this posture and then closing the eyes when you're ready. Maybe softening the gaze down if that's preferred. But noticing, check back in with yourself. How are you feeling so far? Maybe different than when you started. On your next inhalation, the eyes can open if they're closed. You're going to reach up overhead, follow. As you exhale, lower. If you find you've been holding a lot of stress or tension today or over the last few days, I encourage you to let out some releasing breaths. You're exhaling through the mouth and letting out a sigh. So I'll demonstrate. You inhale, arms up. And exhale. And let everything release. It's kind of fun to do here. So a couple more. Inhale, reach up. And exhale, release. Letting the weight of the world off your shoulders. Inhale up. And exhale, release. Awesome. Now your hands are going to clasp behind your back. Draw the knuckles down, chest opens. If this is inaccessible, hands can just simply be as if they're in their back pockets. You're leaning back slightly, chest opens. We're strengthening our neck here. Wonderful. Maintaining that steady breath. Releasing through your arms. A great way, by the way, to reverse those random postures we might find ourselves in. Really open up the heart, open up the chest. Great for the mind and body. We're coming into one of my favorite poses here. You're going to extend the right leg out to the side, and the right arm's going to rest on it. Left arm's going to reach up and over. We'll do both sides, so don't worry too much about left and right. But what you'll notice here is this lengthening through the inner thigh, lengthening through the side body. This is gate pose, a beautiful posture. For those of you finding this hard on the leg, you might just simply bend and actually lean into that leg. It's a great option. And if coming into this pose is just too much, you might just stay in your high kneeling posture and simply reach the arm overhead instead. As you inhale, reach up, exhale to lower, draw that right knee back in, send the left one out, your choice, out to the side, a little more forward if that's more comfortable on the hip, or bending the knee. As you inhale, reach the right arm up and over to the left this time, and just noticing, how does the side feel different? For me, my right side's a little tighter today through the side body, and my left inner thigh not as tight as the other side. So just making those notes, really sensing into how your body's doing today. Wonderful, and then reaching up tall, exhale to lower the arm back down, draw the left knee in. We're going to finish our practice today with a supported Shavasana pose. So this would be a little more restorative in nature. So I'm using my couch today. You could also use a chair, whether that be a lazy boy chair, whether it be a chair from your kitchen table, or if you're doing this in your bedroom and your bed sits fairly low, you could even place your legs up on the bed. So coming into this posture, you're going to have some supports around in case you choose to use them, okay? So I'm gonna keep my pillow nearby because I think I'm gonna place it underneath my hips. I also have this blanket folded and rolled, and I'm gonna place my heels up on it so that my heels are sitting lower than my Achilles and calf that are supported. So that is something that you can set up for yourself. In addition to that, if you find that having your legs up for whatever reason isn't comfortable for you, you could take your traditional Shavasana where you're just laying flat on your back and maybe place a cushion under your knees. Some of the benefits of doing this style of Shavasana is that we are kind of taking the pressure off your back. It's really great if you have back pain or back pressure. We often do this out in physio. We call it Z-line because your body kind of looks like a Z shape. But it's just a really relaxing posture for the body for you to enter into that state of rest, digest, relaxation, that parasympathetic response. But also using the props to encourage your body to let go of tension. So even after moving our body in all these ways, sometimes we're still holding on to some tension, and so this is encouraging that tension to release. If you like your neck supported, you could have a second blanket nearby, and I'll just show you here. I've folded my blanket so that I have about a couple inches extra at the bottom, so that I'm going to have the base of my neck around here. So my shoulder blades below the fold, my neck and head on the fold, and I'll explain that a little bit further. Very good. And we'll have our strap nearby just before coming into the Shavasana. We are just going to do some lengthening through the hamstrings. So getting yourself supported. I'm going to have my back to you, so I apologize for that, but it'll give you at least a bit of a visual here. So I'm going to send my legs up as I scoot myself forward, and I'm going to lower myself down. Very good. So have your strap nearby. We're just going to do a little bit of lengthening before relaxing here. So we're going to bring our left leg towards us, send the left leg up. If your hamstrings are tight, you might notice that your knee has to have a little bit of a bend to it, and that is totally fine. You'll still get some lengthening at its other attachment point in the hip. You might rock the leg left and right, just encouraging the hip to relax. Breathing with this hold. Then we're going to send the other foot up to do the same, relaxing the left leg, send the right leg up. Make your adjustments here. Rock your leg left and right. Wonderful. And if you would like, you can finish by doing both legs together. This is a modification of legs up the wall, which is a great way to encourage the blood flow back to the heart, as well as the lymphatic system. So if you have any swelling through your ankles and feet, this is a physical way that you can encourage that return of flow back into the main part of the body through the trunk of the heart. And also in the yogic world of the mind-body practice, this legs up the wall posture is thought to be very calming for the mind. See for yourself. Wonderful. Taking a bit of rocking left and right if that's available for you. Just a great way to self-release the low back. Feel the pressure shifting from left to right. As you come back to center, we'll set one leg down at a time on the support, placing that off to the side. Your options here are to have your arms straight beside you, or if you prefer, you can reach for those pillows nearby and support your arms. You could have the elbows bent, you could have them straight. And typically in a Shavasana, we would have our palms up, kind of ready to receive all of the benefits of moving the mind and body in this way together. And if you're choosing to support your neck at this point, you can start to roll the blanket. So you'd find that lip that you created and start to roll towards your head. You'll do that with the first layer, and then you take your second layer and add a little more rolling. Just a beautiful way to support the head and neck, which can encourage this area to soften more. It's very common for the neck and head to still hold tension even when supported, because that's what it's designed to do, to protect your brain at all times. It needs to stay on and ready. So here we are giving the neck and head support so it can soften a little bit more. Allow your body to rest here and feel all the ways that it's supported into rest. Feel your feet relax, your heels and ankles soften. Feel the weight of your legs really resting into the cushions below. Maybe the knees fall apart as the hips relax. Feel the spine supported by the floor. Relaxing through the shoulders, the arms become heavy, fingertips soften. Softening through the jaw, the eyes, the facial muscles. Eyes can be closed. And then coming back to that 3-part breath today that we started with. With every exhalation, softening a little bit further into relaxation. You can stay exactly as you are as you enjoy this practice a little bit longer. leave you with a loving kindness meditation. As you silently repeat to yourself, you may place your hands over your heart. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I be kind to myself and to others. And may all beings find hope and peace. Allowing yourself to relax a little bit longer here. And as we say goodbye, I want to thank you for sharing your practice with me today. The light in me honors the light in you. Take care.